Hi, my name is Princess and you're watching Divine Duo. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So today is going to be a nursing video. If you guys are unfamiliar, I am an RN, still a new grad, almost at my 1 year point. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about long-term healthcare versus short-term healthcare as an RN. I'm gonna go through everything. I'm gonna go through the perks, I'm gonna go through the environment, I'm gonna go through the pay. So yes, if you're interested, stay tuned. Okay guys, so if you are familiar with my journey, you know that I have worked in a nursing home setting before, and now I currently work in a hospital setting. So the nursing home setting is going to be the long-term care, and then the hospital setting is going to be the short-term care. For those of you that do not know, long-term care means that you're going to be taking care of them for a long time, meaning it could be to the end of their life, it could be possibly rehab. It's sometimes put into that whole category because nursing homes do offer rehab. So with that being said, a hospital setting is going to be that short-term care. They're coming in for probably surgery or something that happened acutely that they're coming to take care of and be sent on their merry way. So yes. So that is the agenda when it comes to long-term care versus short-term care. Let's talk about orientation for me, because I feel like that was a big difference. When I was in the nursing home, the orientation was, 5 days. Mind you, I was a new grad and it wasn't hitting. It was not giving what it was supposed to give. I was shaking in my boots by the time day 5 came. But let's talk about it. So in the nursing home, I feel like they are very much short-staffed. Anywhere when it comes to healthcare, they're very much short-staffed. People are getting sick every day. In the nursing home, they are trying to get the nurses out there. You know what I mean? So they're not trying to give you the amount of orientation that you probably need. So with that being said, yes, I only got 5 days of orientation, and I had to fight for an extra few days because I just did not feel ready. And even though I was a new grad, just wasn't hearing it. And I could have probably fought for more, but I just figured I had to. I'm one of those people that's gonna look at the cup, half full. So in my head, I was just like, you know what? Let me learn under pressure. Let me just learn along the way. Not the best route to take, but I just had to at that point, and I had enough confidence in myself to do so. So orientation in the hospital was definitely up my avenue. I had 12 weeks of orientation, and I am a night nurse, but I had 10 weeks on a day shift and I had 2 weeks on the night shift, and it was wonderful. My preceptor was the best. Shout out to Alexa. And my night nurse preceptor too, Rebecca, was good. So I definitely had great preceptors, that's one. My manager, she's great also. So the hospital showed me what orientation was supposed to be about. We would have meetings and every 3-4 weeks, and talk about how I felt, how are things going, and whether they cared or not, I felt like they did. I felt like they really wanted me to get the hang of it. And I was also told that if I needed more past 12 weeks, then so be it. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I really can't complain. I feel like they actually got me ready. Of course, you're not going to feel 100% ready after any orientation. Doesn't matter, because you're going to end up seeing things after those 12 weeks that you probably didn't see during the 12 weeks, and that's okay, because there's nurses today that have been in the field for years upon years, and they're still learning things. Because why? Policies change, science change, healthcare changes all the time. So yeah, with that being said, I felt like I was definitely put in the right environment when it came to orientation, when it comes to short-term care. So that's 1 point for short-term right there. All right guys, so the next, I'm looking down because I have my phone. I wanted to write notes to make sure that everything is nice and flowing well. And also I wanted to have a casual setting. How y'all like it? The candles. Grab your wine, let's talk. Let's talk about the environment. Now, the environment in the nursing home, it can be fast-paced considering how many patients you have. I'll talk about that in a few. It can be fast-paced your day kind of feels like it maybe goes fast. But as far as the environment goes, I feel like the staff that you're working with is pretty much NAs, physical therapy, and of course your directors of nursing and administrators, which you see the administrators quite a bit, because they want to make sure everything is going smoothly. You might see family a little bit more when you're in the nursing home, but you barely see any doctors. You do see NPs. When I was working in the nursing home / rehab center, I seen the NP. The NP was pretty much that go-to person. If anything happened, you were talking to the NP or the nurse manager, and that was probably, as far as the floor goes, that was probably the highest that you, let me not say highest rank, but high as far as the chain of, like, I don't know, I don't want to say anything that's going to sound like offensive, but you know, the NP can do more for you than, you know, an RN can do for themselves, or than even a director or a nurse can do. So I feel like the NP was probably the highest one for as far as that goes. And physical therapy, of course. Environment in the short-term care, aka hospital, you see doctors, you see residents, you see of course attendings, and you know, you see more when it comes to different staff. You know what I mean? Like co-workers, like you see different levels, you see different people that have to do with that patient. You know what I mean? Like you're called, as a nurse, you are calling in consults. You're calling in consults to different specialties. If the person has a stomach problem, you're calling the consult to the GI with the doctor's order, of course. But you know, that requires you to see the GI doctor come in. That requires you to see the doctor, the PCP for that patient. You know, so you are seeing more. You do see NPs more at night, which is what I see, because the doctors usually aren't in the building at night. Some of them are, but usually they have an NP covering them at night. So you definitely see more when it comes to the environment. You see more of the staff. You just see a little bit more, and it can be pretty fast paced depending on if you're working on the daytime or the nighttime. But all in all, I feel like both long-term care and short-term care is fast paced either way. So next, let's talk about experience. Now, we all know that as an RN, if you're going to have a resume moving forward, a hospital probably has more of it's more to sprinkle on your resume than long-term care. I'm not saying that anything's wrong with long-term care. How can I explain? But I feel like, personally, employers know that the experience that you get in the hospital setting is different than the long-term care. So I feel like when you know, seeing a hospital on your resume probably has just a little bit more perks. Now, if you're a director of nursing in a nursing home, or you're like, you know, a manager, that's obviously gonna hold more weight. You're showing leadership, so that's different. But hospitals are hard to get into. Hello. They're hard to get into. Mind you, they're understaffed, but they're still hard to get into. It's almost like you need to know somebody to get into a hospital. And I think that's what makes its credentials different. Also, in the hospital, you're seeing more diagnoses. Let me explain what I'm talking about. In the nursing home, because it's a long-term care, most likely you're just taking care of the patient. And you're seeing the same medications. You're seeing the patient, for the most part, the resident, for the most part, in the same state day to day. You know, not much things happen acutely or like out of nowhere, if that makes sense. When it comes to the hospital setting, they could be coming from surgery. They can have, you're likely to see more sicknesses or more scenarios. So it's almost like you have more experience under your belt when it comes to like taking care of sick people. So I feel like that's what makes hospitals hold more weight when it comes to experience, resume, and moving forward as a nurse. And you know, if you're like me and you care about that kind of thing, like, you know, gaining more experience and, you know, upping your credentials, then it's good for you. But if you're just in it for the money, go where you want to go. Of course, you learn more. I feel like in a hospital, like I said, you see more diagnoses. You see, I'm able, as a hospital nurse, I'm able to list more diagnoses that I've had than in a nursing home. In the nursing home, they've lived their life. They most likely have the regular old hypertension, you know, maybe a little bit of diabetes sprinkled on there, high cholesterol. And in the hospital, they have that as a past medical history, but they didn't come in for that unless it was exacerbated. So now, you know, that makes them a little bit more critical than it would be for a patient in long-term care setting. I hope that makes sense. One other thing when it comes to experience that I see more in the hospital, of course, is an IV. We don't have IV pumps in the nursing home that I was working at. We did give IVs though, and we did do IVs, but it hanged by gravity. And in the hospital, we actually had IV pumps. And one thing that we did have in the nursing home though was G2 pumps. We did have those. So, but as far as the IV pumps go, I definitely learned that in the hospital, and that's just something that's universal. Let's talk about pay, money, honey. So this is where the nursing home has more leverage, holds more weight. In the nursing home, you get paid more, period. When I was in the nursing home, I got paid more. Granted, I was per diem nurse. So if you don't know, per diem is that, you know, you basically just, they fill you in wherever. You work wherever, whenever you can, or whenever they need you. Okay, so my camera just died, so that's why the angle looks a little bit different. Oh, my one is out of it. That's alright. Okay, so I was talking about pay. Like I said, long-term care, aka the nursing home, has more pay. You're gonna see why in just a second. But one thing I can say is that when I was working in the nursing home, I wasn't working full-time, so I didn't have any benefits. I was per diem, so I didn't have any benefits. So I see why they pay me more for per diem. But nursing home in general, even if I was full-time, I would be getting more perks, I would be getting more money. And that leads me into my next topic, which is the workload. Now, the workload for nursing home is, this is a little controversial, because when it comes to what you're doing in the nursing home, you're giving medication, you're probably doing wounds, and you're obviously overseeing the NAs and making sure that all of your patients are good. You're making sure that all of your patients are good, all 40 of them, yes, because you have about 20 to 40 patients as a nurse in a nursing home, and in the hospital you have about 5 to 7. The most I've had is probably 8, but I protested. So yes, let's talk about the workload again. So the workload, if you feel like having a lot of patients is a lot versus you just doing what I just said, medication, wounds, overseeing, and that's it when it comes to what you're doing, but it's a lot of patients. Now, if you rather take that versus you having a small amount of patients but more to do, then you gotta think about what load means to you. In the hospital setting, yes, you have 5 to 7 patients, but you not only do medications, you do wounds in the daytime mostly. You might have to reinforce it at night or do it over at night. But you're also paying attention. You're literally paying attention to every little thing about that patient. You're looking at the orders. You're looking at what orders they may need. And that might happen, you know, so often. You're contacting the doctors, you're getting a hold of the doctors. If they don't have residents, if they don't have NPs that's in the building at night, you have to call them and wake them up. Like, you're using more critical thinking, in my opinion. And that might be stressful to some people, but I'd rather know more about my patients and have 5 to 7 patients than have 40 and not know much about them, but just giving out medications and no wounds. That's just me. But to each his own. But that's what it feels like when it comes to, you know, the workload in both settings. Next, we're going to talk about the hours, which is going to be very quickly. In the nursing home, you're working 8 hours, and in the hospital, you're working 12 hours. That's another one that's to each its own. Do you rather work 3 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week for 12 hours, or would you rather do all 5 days a week and, you know, and do 8 hours and knock it out? That's up to you. Last but not least, documentation when it comes to the two. Now, I feel like, of course, you have a lot of documentation with more patients, so long-term care, you have a lot of documentation because of the patient load. When it comes to hospital though, I feel like they're more on top of documentation. And granted, you only have 5 to 7 patients, but it's acute care. So anything that changes or anything you've done in that day is more crucial, it's more important, because that patient is only there for, like, let's say what, 3 days to a week. So that means that in the event that you go to court, because that's what documentation is all for, going to court, these papers are going to be shown in court. So you document like your life depended on it, like your license depended on it, because it does. So what you're going to do is you are going to document more thoroughly in a hospital setting. So that has to go back to critical thinking and how much more important it feels like, you know, that aspect of nursing is when it comes to short-term care. By that I mean you can get away with more in the long term in the nursing home when it comes to documentation.
Absolutely.
Because they're there for years upon years. Who's threading through that much? Come on now. You miss one day, nobody's gonna say nothing to you. Not that you should, but you know what I mean. But when it comes to the hospital, you cannot miss anything, because if they've only been there for 3 days, this should just, y'all should understand what I'm saying. If they're only there for 3 days, you have to make sure that all 3 days of them being there
is on point and documented.
It's pristine. True. That's it. That's precious in the background.
That's true.
So yeah, with that being said, that's what it goes. That's what I just wanted to lay on y'all hearts real quick, because documentation is no joke in both settings. But in the hospital setting, don't try to get away with what you got away with in the nursing home. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you want to join the PMB party, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching.